Hello and welcome back to Higher Density Living this morning. We want to talk about gurus.
Yes,
they've been around for everywhere. You know, if you walk around India, you'll see they will throw, whether it's a child or an old man, it doesn't matter. If something has happened and it's like taking word through the streets, they'll throw flowers, they'll paint them, they'll sit there naked, people are burning incense around, they'll do everything. They'll carry them around like they're a god.
Yeah, and then that group hysteria causes a hierarchy.
Oh, an immediate hierarchy. The second people start like prostrating to this thing, which means like bowing down, that's a problem. You know.
So, but I mean, when you go back in history and you look at that, you know, whether it be, you know, and Jesus was really good about that. He's like, you know, he's like, we're all one. You know, I mean, he constantly taught that over and over again. Like, don't look to me, you know, as being your. Yeah, even though we ended up turning around and making Jesus the savior of the world.
Right.
So then that elevates him above.
Do you know what's that word thing? What's it called when you put the numbers to like letters and words?
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
The Kabbalist created it.
Yes.
Did you know Jesus comes out 666? Did you know that?
Well, I mean,
did you know the word Christ also comes out to 666?
Yeah. Well, it's the word for it's mankind, right? Isn't 666?
Well, 666. It means anti-logos.
Oh,
it means anti-logic. Anti-creation.
Well, you know, I'd watched a thing and they were talking about Jesus being kind of like a symbol of love and feminism, and like Buddha is logic and wisdom.
Interesting.
In male, you know. So, you know, which if you look at all Jesus' teachings, it's all very emotional, very, you know, peace, love, joy, all that stuff.
Well, I mean, that's what it should be.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Anybody that's teaching, but
even let's use him. He's people's guru.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
100%. People get tattoos of him on their body.
Yeah.
They bow down to him. They pray to him.
Catholic Church, you walk into a Catholic church, what's up there? It's Jesus on the cross.
Yeah, but is he above you?
Yeah,
all the time.
All the time.
They never put Jesus on a cross like lower in the ground to the pews. It's always above it. All the time. It's always
the Pope
this.
Is a guru. You have to kiss his ring.
You have to kiss his ring. The Pope has to stand on a balcony to look at you and address you.
Yeah.
He doesn't stand on the same level. Think about all these things. And there are huge steps that lead up into the Vatican.
Yes, yeah.
After you're in Vatican City, all these things are material representations of a hierarchy, right? But that's that aspect of the guru that people look at, and people are like, "Oh, you know, you have all these gurus here." There are a lot of twisted gurus, or even spiritual healers. And I'll get into. Some people can through magnetotelepathy, magnetopathy. Sorry, that's what it is. So the actual ability to move electromagnetic energies with their own body into others.
Right.
Okay. Some people are good at that, but they are still twisted. They can still lack balance in the body.
Well, anybody, I mean, you know, like the Seth's teachings, we've talked about this before, you know, with the negative aspects of it, you know, and then that lady that was with the test teachings. But I want somebody to understand, you know, Gandhi, there was issues with him.
Yep.
People are human.
They are human.
And if you understand that they're human, then you understand they make mistakes.
It changes the whole dynamic.
When you elevate somebody, you know, they do that with pastors, you know, in on the Christian side of things. You know, like this guy, you know, we have one here in Albuquerque. He's like one of the largest mega churches. I mean, he's got like 15,000 people coming.
Is it the High Desert Church?
No,
Calvary?
It's Calvary.
Yeah.
Calvary Chapel Church. They have amazing music. I love their music. But whenever you look at somebody like that and he's at this, you know, this is the person that's going to give us the information divinely from God through this divine book. I mean, think about that.
Nah.
Or I need forgiveness of my sins, so I need to go to a priest. I have to go there to a priest and then say, Father, I have sinned. And then share it. I got to tell him all my problems. You know, the nightmares I had last night.
But the thing is, you relate it to him because he's apparently closer to this higher deity.
Yeah, he's the church, the Catholic Church, because he's ordained by the church.
Correct.
So the Catholic Church is the only way to God.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. They funneled the whole thing in.
And I want people to understand that if you're Catholic, that's what they are. The word Catholic means universal.
Yeah.
It's a universal church. Like you have to go
you know what
through.
It is? It's a universal funnel is what
It is. That's what it is.
It's a universal hierarchical ladder for them. But think about the priesthood. You have to hit this level, then bishop, cardinal, bishop, whatever the thing is. I don't care what the structure is. And, you know, it's all going through those specific things.
There's no difference between the IRS and the Catholic Church.
No, there isn't. They're both scammers.
Yeah, you both have to go to them.
They're both effing scammers.
You have to be Catholic and you have to pay taxes.
That's exactly right. I can only imagine, like, to think about how many wars the Archbishop of Canterbury was telling, like, every single freaking King Edward he needed to go through. Oh, you should probably do this. Why? France doesn't. They don't have a good bloodline.
Yeah, the Pope suggests that.
The church is deciding which bloodline sits higher above another human being, and that defines them as worthy enough to be a ruler. What a crock of shit.
Well, and
Come
then
on,
also
get out of here, buddy.
The church had its own army and wealth. So they would come to a king and say, "Hey, if you believe in the Catholic Church, if you can convert over, I have an army and I have a ton of gold for you."
Can I ask you something? Why are they still training those Vatican guard? Why are those guys? They're literally super soldiers. Mm-hmm. If you really had a solid religion that wasn't a threat to anybody, what do you need the guard for?
Well, the Vatican's their own country.
That's
you
an insane
can go
part.
there if you're who did that? Was it Manuel Noriega? It was somebody went and fled to the Vatican and no one could touch him.
Well, no one can touch him. But what happened was there were so many different dictatorial changes in Italy at the time. Italy always wanted a new sort of like fascist leader.
Yeah.
Right? And through those different things, the church asked, hey, we want to still maintain sovereignty. And so it was actually written into the Italian constitution, which was never changed after that point. And then they lobbied to make sure it doesn't get changed. And any ruler that came in, they'll say, we'll pay for all your stuff as long as you don't change this.
Oh, yeah.
Or you don't force us to sell our assets that we have throughout Italy because you're nationalizing the country, you want to take over ownership of it. Think about it.
That makes sense. I mean, for their part, as in business,
yeah,
you don't want to have to go with the ebb and flow of the government. You want to be separate from that.
That's exactly what they wanted.
So, I mean, because their banking, their wealth, everything they have is. That's why I always tell people, you never see a poor priest.
No, there's a great book called God's Bankers. Read it. It's fantastic. It's about money and power in the Vatican. Also, how many people they've killed. It's got great imagery of in Vatican Square a guillotine, and they're just cutting heads off. The Vatican. The whole, you and your universal church, we all love God. I'm still going to cut some heads off.
Yeah, and so, let's switch back to...
Sorry,
no, I love
ranting
that.
About the Vatican.
I love that. I know, I love that. I'm the same way. Let's switch back to India. And, they have these big festivals and big parades where they put gurus up on these. People are carrying them. Mm-hmm. And they have them on these big, like almost altars with the velvet and the bright colors.
And you got the guy, each one has a pole on the shoulder.
Yeah, and so they even have a thing, and I know a lot of people from the United States, Canada, Europe go to it. It's like once a year or something where they put all the gurus in a place, and then you can go and kind of shop for your guru. That's what I call it, shop.
So crazy.
And so then...
Is that the one where they have the huge head of like Shiva or something or whatever it is? I
mean, this place is insane, the amount of people that come. I think it's like 1 million people show up or something.
Well, there's 1 billion people there, so 1 million's nothing.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's like a fart in the wind for India.
Maybe even more than that, yeah. But I mean, and a lot of people are going there and then listening to all these type of teachings, so they're basically shopping for a guru.
But think about it. They're listening to those teachings from these people. There's no learn-teach. There's no balance in the guru-student.
Yes.
It's not a equalized reciprocal nature. It's like, I need to go listen to him and do everything this guy says. Why would I do that? You tell me he knows absolutely everything because society has deemed him as a guru? I wasn't there when some sort of deity apparently talked to him. How do I know the legitimacy of what's going on here? Maybe he does some sort of, I wouldn't call it a trick. Maybe he does something because he has very intense consciousness powers and has the ability to move an object with his mind. Right? Oh, I'm sold. Don't be sold because someone has the ability to do something you have the ability to do also.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
He is a human being. He is not above you or she, whoever that guru might be. Okay? You need to understand that. And they need to learn from you also. And the second you say that they are a guru or you put them up on stage and you're there to go see them, but there lacks that sort of balance and that interaction, where it's I sit and I listen the entire time, but I cannot ask them a question or tell them something. Something's completely out of whack. Don't let that guru define what you do. Learn from them. Learn what to do and what not to do, right? Learn what they have to say, but understand they are not the one that controls your decisions. They're like a little micro church moving around.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah.
All right. The macro and the micro, they're both one and the same here. So when you look at them, understand that they're the micro church. Understand you still have to have all of that power.
Well, and then also whenever you look at, you can even get into this new age teaching that we're seeing nowadays, where they have, you can go to Sedona and they have like these retreats and stuff like that. And we have a lot of people that are listening to us that are involved in that. And then somebody comes out and you're paying $3,000 and you're listening to teachings. If they are making it exclusive.
Yeah.
You can tell the intent of a teacher. You know what I mean? Because I believe that there are people that are more tapped in.
I need you to pay $5,000 for this ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Right.
This is one of the major things that was always an issue, is access to knowledge. It always has to be free. The second you put money on it, you've limited the group and created a natural hierarchy. You've created a division, a separation. There is no unity when you block access by putting knowledge to a monetary value. If you do that, that knowledge is worthless. This is why I found going to college worthless, because you are asking me to pay all this money only because, not for the knowledge that I'm trying to access, but for the rank I am asking to receive upon graduation of spending my time here. That knowledge, everything that was shared to me throughout university, I found it all in the library.
So what do you think about the internet?
Library cost me $250 for a library card.
You know, I was listening to Joe Rogan yesterday, and there was a guy on, a chemist, and he was talking about there's a new website, and they have to change the website all the time. This lady in the Ukraine's making it. And it's made already and it's out there. But she has to change it all the time because they're trying to take it down. This is really interesting. It has all the white papers, the scientific white papers that are out there. From
every single
Harvard,
one?
Everywhere. Because if you want to read a scientific white paper,
you got to pay for it.
Well, he was talking about, he goes,
dude,
we have to write them for free.
Yeah.
And then it's up to Harvard, or I'm not picking on Harvard, I love Harvard, but it's up to Princeton, Harvard, whoever it may be, MIT, and then they disseminate that information, but you have to have like a login and credentials so that you can be another scientist to
actually access it.
Where she's like...
It limits the sharing of the research.
She's like, why can't a young person, and we'll use Pakistan, why can't a young person in Pakistan that's 13-year-old that's interested in physics, why can't he read as many white papers as he wants for free?
That's precisely
with
correct.
His phone.
That's precisely correct. That's how it should be. You know, when I go through PubMed, right? So lucky for me, going to Temple University, their library is the best resource out of that entire campus. It's a massive university, huge. But the number one thing, they have the second largest library to Congress. And I could use my credentials from going there to access all of these things I otherwise would not have access to in the general public. Yeah, I mean, that's what I paid for. But I had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to get access to that. Very few people have the ability to afford something like that.
Yes.
You're limiting the sharing of knowledge. You're doing the same thing the priesthood did in Egypt. Right. You're doing the same thing they did in Israel, the same thing they do in the Vatican, the same thing they do in the United States. All of these things are limiting, disunifying, and they create this idea that we need to separate and become better.
Well, who makes the rules? To say you're worthy or not. You're unworthy, you're worthy. Who gets to make those rules?
What the fuck is
the
it?
Elite?
What? Oh, your skin's black, you're not worthy enough?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Because Harvard did a fucking study that your skull's a different size or a different shape, you're not worthy enough?
Yeah.
And who decided that white people are better than anyone else? I know a lot of white people that suck. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. But all of these things actually boil down from the Catholic Church. Every single one of these. That idea of worthiness, progeny, all of it, pedigree, you name it, all boils down from that. It went from the church to the monarchs to the local rules, and those rules have been adopted in the United States, whether they were adopted formally into written codified law or they were adopted socially.
Yeah, so how would we look at, and we'll get into the laws here in a second, but so how would we look at when we look at fairness?
Yeah,
because that's a big word.
Yeah, fair. So the law of fairness is almost, it ties into that law of equality, okay? So we need to look at, is there equal access to this information that the guru is giving out? Can everybody see him? I know a lot of gurus in India that people aren't even allowed to touch.
Unless you pay a lot of money.
They have military transports. Mm-hmm. It's a guru. Okay, they're like, I'm telling you, like a mini Vatican driving around. That's already a problem. If you can't go and meet this person with open access, that's red flag number one. Why wouldn't I be able to do that? If you love to talk about Jesus, he could go anywhere. He was giving free speeches all day long to everybody. Come on and listen, whether you want to or you don't. That's open access all the time.
Right.
Okay. That should be your first notion that this person is either legitimate or illegitimate. If they're truly a learned, enlightened, highly evolutive person, they're open for all. They're willing to have that conversation with all. no matter the polarity of that person that comes to speak with them. Isn't that not true?
Yeah, because you wouldn't be if you're truly at that level of consciousness, then that polarity wouldn't affect you.
No, it wouldn't affect you at all.
It's not like draining your energy.
You integrate with all.
Right.
Which that's the point.
Right.
You would do as nature does. You would be that tree that gives shade to the good and the bad.
Well, I mean, the law of one talks about this, the raw material, when it goes into like being a wanderer.
Yeah.
You know, and it kind of gives it. There's not rules per se, but it kind of gives this whole idea of this person's not going to fit in. They're kind of, and she wrote a whole book on the Wonders Handbook.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a huge book.
Yeah, yeah, but it's kind of this whole idea of, you know, it was the sixth density being that it drops down to, I think, fourth density that drops down to third.
Sixth that drops down to third or fourth.
Yeah, to come and do
and help elevate the earthly plane.
Yeah, so, you know, when you look at somebody like that and you see that process, it's like, here you are, you're having an evolved being that is, you know, hundreds of thousands of years more evolved.
Yeah.
That's choosing to come back, which I like the whole idea in the first place. I think it's amazing.
It's selfless.
Yeah, it's selfless. Yeah. I would love to do that once I get it.
Let me do it.
Level. Yeah,
Let me do it.
Back. Yeah. And
I'm game. Tattoo it on my body right now. So that when I come back, I dig the old body up and be like, okay, that's legit.
Yeah. So, you know, so coming back and having this opportunity to elevate humanity with that being totally selfless.
Yeah.
Like not looking at it. It's like, what is the intention of this teacher? It's like, what is their true intent? Is it to, and I don't mind people, you know, like in HDL, we have where you can donate because we're not for profit. So I don't mind that aspect of, you know, that money is just energy. So, you know, if somebody donates to higher density living, it just helps us to be able to do more.
To continue to produce more of this.
Yeah. And you know,
so that if it was valuable for you to hear, it's got to be valuable for everyone else, but it's still free for everyone to access.
Yeah, all the information, everything on the website,
it's still free.
All that. And Law of One does a great job with that, with their books and stuff like that. They have everything for free.
Money does not enhance the access to this at all.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. So let's get into, for the episode, let's get into the law of fairness, law of equality, because I want to speak some truth.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. And we'll, as these laws, we'll use them as a specific filter for how we look at these gurus.
Yeah, because this is one thing, you know, and I was talking with you before the show, this is one thing that's important, is taking something that you may be struggling with and then putting a creational law to it.
Yes.
Because now, like you said, now you have a filter, you have a law that you can filter this through. Yeah. And so now it's not you trying to come up with logic. It's the logic, it's the law.
It's the logic of the logos.
It's the logic of the logos turning around and saying, so, you know, it eliminates you having to judge, or even that emotion of saying, you know, I kind of feel bad. You know, this person it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Literally doesn't matter.
The logic takes in, and then now you can just steer yourself in that direction.
Correct.
Law of fairness, law of equality. All laws have their uniformity of logic, and all universally have their validity in the small as in the great, micro and the macro.
So that's saying the law, is this the law of fairness?
Yes.
So it has to be shared. Fairness is sharing, correct?
Right.
So it has to be shared in the micro as it has to be shared in the macrocosm. If it is not, the law is not fair. It then would be biased and only give it to one application. It has to be applicable to all.
No, I love that.
That's a fair way of doing something, right? That's for the good of everyone. And being good is being fair.
Yeah, and then it says the equality of the human being justifies its entitlement only, keyword, only in the following of the laws of nature and in the truth of the evolution of the consciousness and spirit.
Yeah, so the only thing that you are
entitled
to
right
is your evolution. That's it. You're entitled to being alive and evolving. Everything else in this world you have to work for. You have to work for the knowledge. You have to work for your awareness. You have to sit, ruminate, think, manually build things, go through these pieces of life, these stages of life, but you're not entitled to those experiences. You have to work for those experiences through your choice, but you are entitled to your life and you are entitled to your evolution.
So whenever they say only in the following of the laws of nature.
Only.
Yeah, only in the following of the laws of nature. So what I'm taking this as, whenever a person is following the laws of nature,
yeah,
a human, I mean, and so we're looking to nature to get our answers, our responses. We're aligning in unity with nature.
Yes.
As you had mentioned, the granite rock, that's on the mountain that we have here.
I love it.
This is a big,
pink
huge
granite. Yeah.
Monster crystals we have here in Albuquerque.
Huge.
Just, and then they got sun shining on them all the time. But as I go there and then I align with that, I'm aligning with the sun, I'm aligning with that granite, then truth begins to speak through me.
Well, yeah, because the second you find that awareness allows you that alignment. Just standing there won't do you any good until you realize the value of what it means to stand there, to be with that thing.
Yeah, because, and not get too sidetracked in this, but the following of the laws of nature, because I want people to understand what the word following, because that's a verb, what following means.
It doesn't, so when you follow these laws are also, one of the laws of nature is free will. Mm-hmm. So by following that, it's not nature demanding you of doing something. It's frankly a recommendation of what is best. Because
this is where I was getting at. Because when we say following, people think that they have to give up their free will.
There's no giving up. Free will is a part of this thing. And that's the beautiful part of it. Following is but a recommendation of the most evolutive path for you.
I think it's just aligning to your true nature.
That's all it is. And we always think of following as like, I have to be subordinate. That's not what it is. This asks you to align with nature. Those laws wouldn't work, right? But again, in English, we have a very poor way of describing concepts, especially the nuances of them. So we're stuck with the word following. So I hope that's clear. All right. Just remember, when you hear things, we also have limitations in our language. So think it through. Think about the emotions that come with it. Think about emotions that can't be descriptively said through your voice.
Yeah. And so when we look at following so now we're aligning with these laws of nature and in the truth of the evolution of the consciousness and spirit. So, and in the truth. So when we look at truth comes through nature.
Of course it does.
It comes through creation.
Nature does not lie. Nature just is. That couldn't be any more truthful.
Whether you agree with it or disagree with it.
It's just being nature.
Yeah, I was showing you a camel and a donkey fighting. It was kind of funny, but the camel fucked up the donkey. But
that's what it is.
There's no whether you agree or disagree. You don't want to look at it, and it's like and it's kind of violent.
Happens. It's nature doing its thing. The tree does not try to act like something it is not.
Yes.
Simple enough. The tree does not be like, I'm a caterpillar, or I'm trying to look like a good person. It doesn't matter to the tree. The tree is just being it. It is being. And in being, it is being creation.
No, I love that. And in the truth of the evolution of the consciousness and spirit.
Yeah, in the truth of the evolution of the consciousness and spirit. That is what it is. So by being itself, by removing all these other things and using these creational natural laws and following them, that is evolutive to the spirit and the consciousness, your thoughts, you refine them. But if I sit here and I listen to a guru and he is telling me how to think, telling me how to look at the world rather than offering me up something that tells me how I should challenge how I look at things.
Well, I like it this way because nature, creation is everywhere. And if you pay attention to it, like the Native Americans, if you pay attention to it enough, it will give you truth. It will give you the answers.
Does nature need to yell at you?
You don't need a guru, a book.
No.
You don't need any of those things because all the information, that evolutionary information is available to you right now.
All you got to do is pay attention to it.
It will elevate your consciousness and spirit.
Yeah. And all you got to do is sit down, quiet yourself for a brief moment and look internally at who you are and your relation to you and your relation to spirit and your relation to everything outside of yourself.
Yeah. And then just a simple question, how can I align with this?
Is there a microcosm and macrocosm? Yes. Is there light and dark? Yes. Is there seen and unseen? Yes. Oh, there must be a law of polarity. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they play
spacelessness,
off.
Time and timelessness.
The law of one or the law of unity plays off with it. I mean, that's like,
it becomes so inherently obvious the more you start to apply this to your life.
And so the next one is the fairness of the truth, which has been stricken with insult and defilement, is only difficult and hard to attain. And every life form pays its tribute exactly according to the measure that is turned to the truth and thus to creation. We just talked about this.
So what that means is a lot of people like to lie and say they're a guru. They like to give you things that sound like the truth, right? Things that force you to believe. And in doing so through your system of beliefs, and that guru from pushing out this stuff that is actually talking against creation. And when I say talking against it, it talks it in a non-evolutive. It's actually in a degrading manner. You have to pay that price. You may not learn it now in this lifetime through an experience. You may not learn it in the next 10. But when you do learn it, all that time you spent being anti-creational, anti-aligning with, or being anti-logic, that will come back to haunt you as a stronger catalyst because the universe demands balance. So if you're unbalanced for 1,000 lifetimes, one lifetime is going to hurt like hell.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
You pay tribute to the truth. You have to. It demands that balance.
Yeah, and I think that's the question with free will, is this ability to, because when I look at free will and then I look at religion, and then you always see religion, and I'm just being broad strokes here. You always see religion imposing on free will, and then you look at our evolutionary process and creation aligning us.
Yeah.
So some people would say, well, that alignment is going against free will. It's like this creational alignment, it's forcing me in the next life to evolve.
Yeah.
So it's pushing against that, so why could I independently not have free will to the point of, why am I forced into creation?
You are creation. That's the thing. That idea right there is separate from creation. Saying that someone took you, you're special in this universe,
right,
and pulled you into this chain of events that's happening. There were things that happened before you, very timeless, primordial, very, very old things.
But see, this is psychology. This is that puts. I mean, we do this, and if you look at everything that we do, is putting the person at the forefront. It's like me, and then it's the world around me. Like I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
you have to think about what enlivens you. When you say I am, that has to be with a creational understanding. You wouldn't have an I am if atoms didn't come together. But the laws for those atoms coming together wouldn't happen if it wasn't for creation.
Because some people are so narcissistic, they're making themselves a guru. In the sense of they're doing these affirmations this morning, I am, and then everything they're doing, it's like, because some of the most spiritual people, so-called spiritual people, are the most selfish people.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
It's all about them all the time. And you can tell when you talk to someone. I was talking to a lady the other day, and 90% of the conversation was about her.
Where was the balance?
Yeah.
You were here when I was having a conversation with someone. And remember, and then she caught herself. Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh, but what about you?
Yes. Yeah.
She didn't realize that 30 minutes into the conversation, did she ask the first question to ask about somebody else? And I don't mind.
Right.
But what you see is that you also see that with gurus. They have no interest in who you are. Mm-mm. There are red flags everywhere. If it's inhibitive to your free will, if they say you have to do a specific thing for them to achieve a specific thing, like putting money in a coffer, right? These are red flags. Mm-hmm. No money should block access to the knowledge. They should be open to everyone. The truth always needs to be shared. And if they are doing something that is inhibiting your free will or asking you to bow down or put it in a hierarchical format, run in the opposite direction. Recognize that is untruth coming from that, in the actions and the words coming from that person, and then realize that you have all the power within yourself. You don't need to listen to them.
Yes.
You have the ability to solve it by sitting out in nature and shutting up.
Well, I mean, also when you look at, and this is the last part, and I love this, creation treats them fairly by giving their untruth truth.
That's exactly right. Remember I said you're going to be met with a very strong catalyst?
Yeah.
All right? So if I'm creating a flood somewhere, that water's got to come back around, right? If I'm boiling it up, it's like, where's this pressure being built? It's almost like I'm building a dam and I'm trying to stop nature. Well, the truth's going to happen one day when that concrete begins to fail. Mm-hmm. And then it's the first little crack, mm-hmm. right? So this wall of untruth can't really stop nature and truth forever. It's a very temporary thing. So you will be met with that truth. You will be met with experiences where you're like, wow, why is this so difficult? Why? Because you've been living a lie. You've been sleepwalking. You've been in the darkness. You've been doing things completely illogically that are in a very short-term sense, inhibiting your evolutionary path.
Yeah, and so let's get practical on this. So do you think that I like the analogy of the dam.
Yeah.
So here's creation flowing and wants to flow through you. You have it dammed up, but
dam it up. Yeah.
With the untruth. So that alone creates a ton of pressure. At that point, there's a lot of pressure. Do you think that's where our stress comes from?
Of course it does. Because all you're doing is fighting all the time. And that fighting is something that is non-unifying. You're saying that there is an other rather than the shared identity. And as you do that, you are just mounting pressure and friction. And under that heat, it's forming you. And it's pushing through and reworking those untruths into truths. And you're going to have to work harder and harder and faster to keep building up those wall of untruths.
Yeah, because you're pushing against.
Yeah.
I mean, how many?
And you'll always lose.
You're pushing against infinity.
Yeah, and you're always going to lose.
And so I want to get into the last part of, if you don't mind, and I know the raw material talks about this, is service to others. Mm-hmm. And so if you have this desire, which is amazing, you know, it's to have service to others. And there are a lot of people that are listening to this that say, you know, I have these spiritual truths, and I always talk to my friends, and in talking to my friends, they're always asking me for advice. You know, I talked to someone yesterday, and they were like sitting there talking with someone, and it was a female talking to another female, and she was just like, you know, it just poured out of me, like this advice poured out of me, you know, and I couldn't, and I just helped this person tremendously, and then I got jazzed by it, you know. So keeping everything on this, and being service to others, and keeping everything on an equal playing field, how does that work? If you feel like you have a desire to teach.
If you feel like you have a desire to teach, and I learned this lesson hard even in my own relationship with my fiance, is that I always tend to give advice when people don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm trying to overpower or do anything specific. It's because I really want to help. But people want to be helped on their own time when they're ready.
That goes against our free will, yeah.
It's as fair enough as that. Even though I'm trying to help as much as possible.
It's the analogy of the flower being closed for the bee.
Yeah. So when that person sits there and asks you a question, respond as truthfully as you can, as open and honestly, and always format it in the function that this is not for your benefit, like you as the person giving them the advice. It's all for them. Do everything you can to listen and be patient and wait for them to ask, and wait for them to be ready to ask that question themselves.
Yeah, because in service to others, your ego will take that and get your identity out of that service.
That's correct.
And we've talked about that before.
And you gotta try and inhibit that.
It's like the mom.
It's a problem for me.
It's like the mom saying, you know, I serve my kids. And then when your kids don't do something right, then you take it personal because your identity's in that service.
That's precisely. And I know I'm in a relationship with this person, and I do take it personally, you know, and it's hard. It's super hard. But by listening and waiting for them to ask that question when they're ready to ask it, now it's a completely balanced learn, teach, learn situation. You've met them where they are.
But that's just that, to me, it's just a form of respect to that free will. So it's looking at this person and saying, I cannot judge you on your evolutionary process of where you're at.
Never.
Like, period.
And I'm not saying I judge.
Right.
I'm just saying I want to help so bad.
Right.
So bad. Every aching bone in my body wants to help. But some people, not that they don't want help, they do. People want to solve it, but they want to solve it for themselves.
Well, it's always better that way. If somebody tells you what to do and then you
Correct.
figure out how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's always, so it's just a matter of living to live. It's like learning to live in that realm.
And you know, I can get Socratic through, like, I can ask question after question that immediately drive you to your answer.
Right.
And I never even had to say anything to you.
Right.
But sometimes it's too much for people. And you just have to slow it down. You know, even though you may see it 30 steps ahead, meet them where they are.
Accept the level.
Yeah, just accept the level, accept the learn, teach, accept their moment, accept what they're feeling.
But even in that moment, now you're learning patience.
That's correct.
So you're learning from them. You're not teaching them. It's like, this is an opportunity for me to learn.
And they're also teaching me.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it always works that way.
Yeah, thanks.